won.
Oh.
Maybe it was him.
Well, so we've got, Kelly Clarkson, right?
Mhm.
She got a set of pipes. You got
Yeah.
Carrie Underwood, done very well.
Yeah.
And I think, I can think of probably a couple others that had a hit or two, but
it's really her first season, and then Underwood she didn't win. She just was like a runner-up, right, or something.
Oh, I don't know. Did she not win?
Yeah, I think she wasn't even a winner. I think there's some list somewhere of the most successful post-American Idol artists are ones that didn't actually win, that went on to do more stuff or better stuff. Or
Sanjaya.
Yeah, different guy than I'm thinking then.
Yeah. I don't know where he was from. I just know that my mom was like, "Oh gosh, I don't know why they keep voting him through." She doesn't sound like that.
I've seen your mom before because you had her on some show once, and I can totally picture her saying that. That's funny.
Yeah.
Here it is. His name was. Hold on. Oh, what's his name?
Why can't I find this Bristlecone? Here we are. Quantum computing chip.
Oh, I guess there's a few from here. Madeline. Oh, remember Clay Aiken?
I do.
Jordan Sparks, Adam Lambert. That's the guy.
Yeah. I guess there have been more. Yeah, I mean, he's enjoyed a pretty illustrious career, hasn't he?
Yeah, there's a few.
Copy.
That's crazy.
Copy.
There's always going to be some winners.
Yeah, I was never really into those shows.
Oh, Roger, I can't imagine.
Much talent.
Roger, it seems so up your alley.
Yeah, I'm shocked by this revelation. No, I mean, reality shows in general, the only ones I really like is either it has to have, I need to get a sense that something really is going on and it's not just hokum, because most of the time it's just crap.
Oh no, most reality shows are scripted.
I know, almost all of them, and that's why I hate them so much. So you'll catch me on things like Amazing Race is at least about a competition, or I'll see something dumb like Survivor was cool because they made him eat crap that I would never eat.
Right.
And even though I think a lot of it, a lot of it's made up, like the rivalries and stuff are crap, but the guy had to eat a pig scrotum, like he had to do it. And that's fun.
And those first few seasons of Survivor, even though it's like, I mean, it's a television show, right? So there's always going to be smoke and mirrors, but you could sort of watch these people lose all this weight. The rest of us were like, wow, they're really surviving. Now it's like there's like 40 survival shows that are way worse.
Yeah, totally.
Naked and Afraid.
I hate that one. It's just like, come on.
Like, how can you just be like, this is the name of a show?
I don't like it.
It's just like, gosh, it's so intense.
My favorite of all time turned out to be totally fake. At the end of it, they admitted it was fake, but it was the one with Gary Busey. I think.
Oh yeah, like something with Gary Busey.
Yeah, Busey.
Oh, I don't even remember that.
And it was so good because it just seemed like they were capturing weird Gary Busey being weird. And then toward the end, it got like kind of magical.
If it's good, it's produced. It's the rule of thumb. If it's really good, it's produced.
Yeah. That really turned me. I went, okay, I'm done. I don't want to watch
So we're at 30. So
okay. Did we, Scott, are you recording a version?
I am. I'm recording the main one that we'll use for the feed.
Okay.
Otherwise, everything should go like
normal.
And then Raj, are you using a pre-record for the top?
Yes, okay. Scott is. Scott's going to play the music.
I'll play a pre-record for the top, and then music will kick in, and then when you hear it go down, that'll be your cue.
Okay.
And I'm going to start it now so that it's good. Okay. Bip, bip, bip. Oh, you know what? I need to turn. Make sure that's not too loud on this end. Hold on a second. No, not that. That's perfect. Okay.
Cool. It's so scary when I hear these, out of order. I'm like, nah, now it's time to thank the.
Totally. All right.
It's like a Pavlov's dog thing. Okay.
We're ready. So here we go. Roger, you good on your end?
Yes.
All right. Okay, here we go. I'll start it in 3, 2, 1.
The Daily Tech News Show is supported entirely by patrons like me. To learn more, visit dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News Show for Wednesday, March 7th, 2018. Tom Merritt is taking the day off. He's in the middle of traveling to Austin, Texas. He'll be back tomorrow. I am Sarah Lane, coming at you from Studio Feline.
I'm Scott Johnson from whatever this is today. You know what it is? I went to a cooking class last night, and I learned how to make some things. So we're going to call this, I don't know, Kitchen Central with a guy who can no longer just make eggs. I can make other things now.
Like fantastic. What, Scott?
Well, I learned how to make beef skewers that you put a bunch of weird sauces on and some kind of weird peanut dipping thing for egg rolls that I made. And then I also made some pot stickers. This all may sound really rudimentary to everybody else, but for me, that stuff's always been frozen before. And I made them fresh, like in front of people. So I'm proud today of what I'm
proud of your kitchen evolution. Good on you, Scott. Roger Chang, what can you make?
I can make stew. I can make fried rice. I can make scrambled eggs and rice.
Oh, beautiful. All right. Well, I think between the three of us, we've got like 4 dishes.
Yeah.
So good stuff. All right. Well, we are going to get into the show. Let's start off with a few tech things you should know. Microsoft is changing Cortana slightly. Not a big change. You can now activate the digital assistant with the command Cortana along with Hey Cortana, as you previously had to do. The change is currently live, and the Invoke speaker only has yet to update on iOS, Android, or Windows 10, though all 3 are expected to come soon.
Seems a little weird that Windows 10 is not in the rollout.
Yeah.
That's fine. Whatever. The Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, a government panel that reviews mergers that could result in a foreign company controlling American businesses, that sort of stuff, has called for an investigation of Broadcom's proposal to acquire Qualcomm, 2 comms for the price of 1, saying the hostile takeover bid could threaten U.S. national security and weaken Qualcomm's technological leadership. Broadcom announced an unsolicited bid of $130 billion, that's billion with a B, everybody, for Qualcomm back in November.
Yeah, the story keeps on giving. Anonymous sources tell Cheddar that Snap will announce its biggest round of layoffs to date within a week, focusing almost entirely on Snap's engineering department and affecting around 100 jobs. Now, this would be, again, the engineering department, and 100 people is a pretty small number because Snap reported having 3,069 employees at the end of 2017, but it's not growing, it's shrinking.
Yeah,
all right,
let's aren't we at this place with Snap real quick where we think things are supposed to start going south? Like, I feel like there's a shelf life to social services where everybody loves it, or at first it's like, ooh, this is a cool new thing nobody knows about, aren't we cool because we're early adopters? And then it kind of ekes toward mainstream, then it becomes very mainstream, and then we get to this place where we like to hear that things aren't going great. And I feel like Snap is like flag carrying for that right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you think less than 10% of Snap's engineering department is potentially, again, anonymous sources being let go, it's a small number. But I admit, I thought the same thing as you, Scott. I live quite near Snap headquarters, and I was like, will my town be a ghost town all of a sudden? No, I probably won't notice anybody off the road in the neighborhood anyway, or my rent going down. All right, let's talk a little more about a few more stories, starting with Amazon announcing it'll offer a lower cost version of its Prime membership program to qualifying recipients of Medicaid. So that would be, instead of $9.99 per year, or per month rather, $5.99. Amazon first started offering discounted Prime service for customers on government assistance in June of 2017. So this is kind of an expansion of that. It also includes U.S. customers with a valid EBT card.
Interesting. I think this is a cool thing. It feels like a cool thing for a company to do. And I already kind of talked to a friend of mine who, let's put it this way, I tend to be pretty middle of the road politically. I've got a friend who is very much further right from me in regards to things like this. And he thinks this is a terrible idea. He thinks it's already bad enough that people are quote unquote on the land, or not on the lam, but on the what's a better way of saying that? There actually is a way of saying it, but I'm not going to say it on this show. Anyway,
living at or near a poverty line, perhaps?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Thank you. So they're already using government resources, which means they're using his tax money. And in his mind, this is just a company he thinks leans very liberal anyway, who is now saying, well, here's some more freebie stuff, even though it's not really free. It's just sort of half of something else. And hey, if they have enough for Prime, they should be spending that on food instead of getting food stamps. Like, there's a lot more political heat potentially with this announcement than I would have expected. Personally, I think it's a really cool thing they're doing. So I say thumbs up to Amazon. I like when, there's socially conscious stuff happening over there.
Yeah, I guess if you could, I sort of tried to think of it as not politically as possible and just think, well, if the idea of getting delivery and everything's delivered right to your door seems sort of like a luxury for people who had internet access, and not so long ago, this is not necessarily something that would be available to folks with lower incomes, shipping costs, and that sort of thing. To be able to, especially if you're not near a city center and you get a car and then there's gas and there's all sorts of reasons that you might feel a little bit shut out of this otherwise. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I think it's all right. Let's move it on to Dig Once. No one's ever heard that before unless you're the Fonz, I suppose. But the name is for a policy that could speed up fiber internet deployment throughout the U.S. And it's shaping up to become U.S. law after passing the House of Representatives. And it's expected to rip right through the Senate as well and succeed. Dig Once requires fiber conduit installation during many federally funded road projects and mandates, this is a quote, mandates the inclusion of broadband conduit, that's plastic pipes which house fiber optic communications cables, during the construction of any road receiving federal funding, unquote. So the result is reduced costs and increased access for communities when broadband providers enter these new markets and decide to roll new services out because of some of the groundwork will sort of already have been laid, quite literally. So yeah, you can't go just dig up a road and say, here's a new road or here's work we're doing on a road without piping that thing through.
Yeah, I gotta say it makes sense if you're going to be making repairs that the federal government is funding, at least partially funding. I love the fact that they're like, okay, broadband fiber providers, especially folks that might want to come dig up the same place in another few years, or having a good excuse not to because the housing piping infrastructure just wasn't laid down before. Now you have less of an excuse to not be able to give underserved communities better internet access.
Yeah, it's literally two birds, one stone. I like it.
I like it too. All right, maybe you'll like this as well. Microsoft VP Joe Belfiore tweeted that the company will move Windows 10 S from a dedicated operating system, which it has been known as up until now, to a special S mode for versions of Windows 10 starting in 2019, next year. S mode will lock down any copy of Windows 10, so it can only run apps from the Microsoft Store. The company plans to roll out S mode for Windows 10 Home, Enterprise, and Pro versions of the OS. Windows 10 Pro customers with S mode that want to enable their device to the full mode will have to pay $49 to get access to a full version of Windows 10 Pro.
Yeah, it's kind of almost literally
it's like a paywall for Windows.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's almost like where RT went to die. You know what I mean? Like RT had limited functionality. It could only run certain things, and while that may have been more technical limitation, this one is also kind of financial limitation or service limitation.
Sure.
And you can get the very basics that Windows offers. You're going to get your, it's like a Chromebook basically is what S reminds me of. It's like all the basic stuff's going to be covered. But the minute you want to expand out of that, forked up $50 and go for it. I actually think it's a pretty good idea. It seems like you'd be able to get, I don't know, maybe a cheaper PC from an OEM or something. Start small. Aim, get bigger as you go, that sort of thing.
Well, and I don't exactly know how the S team is structured, but it would make sense that they've, if you combine the two a little bit more internally on the engineering side, it's easier for Microsoft to keep track of everything.
Well, another big name every day we seem to do this show is Google, and they have released an early preview of Android P. Have they said what the P stands for? Because it's almost always like candy.
We were with I think the going rumor is pineapple.
Pineapple. All right. So yeah. Fruit. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Pineapple always cuts up my mouth. But anyway, go on.
You're not wrong. Lemonade gets me. Anyway, Android P is the next version of the mobile OS. Highlights include an all-new notification panel, new status bar with notch support. And I don't mean the guy who sold Minecraft to Microsoft for $2.9 billion. Multi-camera API, indoor Wi-Fi positioning, enhanced privacy by blocking apps idling in background from accessing the microphone, camera, and sensors, and improved backup encryption. Android P is available right this second for Google Pixel 1, and the 1 XL, Google Pixel 2, and the 2 XL. So both the Google Pixel models are all set for this thing. Google recommends users avoid installing this build on their own personal devices. I suppose that means they can put them on company ones. I don't know why they make that differentiation, but I guess go out there and get it. If you're a Pixel user, it's time to test.
Well, Roger, as you know, as the 1/3 of the three of us today on the show who uses the Android phone regularly, what stands out at you the most that you're excited about?
I think what's really fascinating is that typically when you see Android and iOS converge on certain features, you know that it's probably a trend. For example, the notch support. It's something that a lot of people kind of, it's like, well, why is there a notch in my phone? And a lot of people have hated it, but it does point the way that it might be a more common feature among Android phones moving forward. The ability to kind of essentially block access to a lot of the OS's or Android P's functions on background applications that are idling is also huge, because we've had issues before of apps listening in to people while they were not necessarily being run, but were in the background. And that's caused a lot of people some anguish over potential privacy intrusion. Multi-camera API, that'd be great, because now there's certainly going to be, especially with higher end phones, multiple camera, like stereoscopic, where you have two lenses, or in some cases two sensors. I don't mean the front and the back. So that'd be pretty neat. And well, what's interesting is kind of they limited to only Google Pixel and up phones, right? Pixel 1. So everything else, you have old Nexus 5, 4, you're out. You're gonna have to upgrade. So it's definitely a push for people who haven't upgraded their phone hardware.
Well, I'd say iOS, but we're on the same boat. After several reports from users of Amazon's voice assistant, you know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to say her name. On the voice assistant enabled devices, said that she was randomly laughing at them without being prompted to wake, mind you, randomly laughing out of nowhere. The company, Amazon, has responded in a statement to The Verge saying, "We're aware of this and working to fix it." Multiple posts on Twitter and Reddit reported that they thought it was an actual person laughing near them in the same room. And why wouldn't they, since smart speakers are not supposed to randomly laugh at you?
Yeah, I got actually an example of this. I'm going to play it real quick.
Please do.
This is the sound that people were hearing apparently randomly from their Echo. Now, that's just a short version of it, but imagine if this was happening every few minutes.
It's an ominous laugh.
Yeah, it's eerie. It's very eerie.
It's an eerie laugh. It's also, even the laughing is one, like, that's just weird, right? Yeah. But just because so many people are already like, hey, we love our, Echo device or equivalent. But it's kind of weird that it's always, it's like, I mean, anybody who's already on the paranoia fence at all is going to be like, all right, no, this is no good.
Yeah. Also, why laughter is a random sound? Why wasn't it just saying hello or anything else? Why a laugh? Like, that's the part that's ominous to me.
Yeah, it's like being at a, like a scary clown show. Also, I was sort of going through some of the tweets because I was laughing, but I was like, if this had happened to me, it wouldn't have been funny, because one of them was, our speaker is right next to the bed, lights off, sleeping. You hear that in the middle of the night and you think it's over for you. Yeah,
there is a clown next to the bed. Roger, what were you going to say?
I was just saying, what if, our whole fears about an artificial intelligence coalescing from all these distributed networks and online services, and it's just laughing at us.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm getting the hang of this. I'm laughing at you because in a decade or so, I'm going to be the one in control.
This is
hopefully we'll figure out, what happened sooner than later. And, my guess is it's like, did some engineer who had a lot of access just, have a laugh? It doesn't sound like her voice, right? It's not that sort of AI robot laugh.
No.
So, it is a clip from a movie, that got lost in the shuffle somewhere. I don't know.
For the record, that was the most Roger theory I've ever heard in my life. I loved it.
Roger. Even for Roger. To get all of the tech headlines of the day each day in about 5 minutes, you can subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. It's our shorter sister show to DTNS. Good stuff. All right, let's discuss the idea of just getting off the internet. Oh, but I'm not going to stop there. How about not watching the news on television anymore? How about if you only got all of your news about the world, no matter if it's tech, politics, environment, whatever, from print? Yes, the old way of doing things. Farhad Manjoo, who is a New York Times reporter, who, by the way, I had noticed was not tweeting lately because he's kind of a funny tweeter. You know, he's one of my favorite people just to sort of be online with during the day. And now I know why, because he took 2 months only digesting news from print. I mean, he's a New York Times reporter, so it's like the guy has to get a lot of news, right? So this is a big experiment. It's a little bit more than, you know, your average sort of like, I'm going to stop using Facebook class. But he had quite a few revelations, if you will. Some of them are more obvious than others, right? That the news comes to you much more slowly, obviously, if you're just reading print, because you don't have that 24-hour instant notification. We all know that. Well, when's the last time we ever practiced anything like this? You know, you're really on sort of a when it goes to print cycle again. You have less news amplification without social media, of course. You don't see fake news issues that are caused by Twitter bots or reposts from people on Facebook that, you know, aren't looking at sources clearly enough. Print news is read by a very small number of people versus online. So if you're going to discuss a particular article, you have less of a chance of having seen that exact same version as, you know, the next person. And he said, overall, the experience was very life-changing. He said, turning off the buzzing breaking news machine, as he calls it, in smartphone, I carry in my pocket was like unshackling myself from a monster. Speaking of monsters, who had me on speed dial, always ready to break into my day with half-baked bulletins. So, you know, I love these experiments because he's certainly not the first person to be like, what would it be like if I just unplugged and, you know, went and lived in the woods or some version of that. I have never done this. I have never done this since I've had access to the internet.
I remember in junior high school, we had a project that required us to have no power in the house. I think it was for a day, it may have been longer, but at least a day. And your whole family had to go along with it. And all I remember from it mainly was that we used candles for light, and my brother burned his eyebrows off by accident with a candle. That's the main thing I remember from it. But I remember liking the experiment. It was like a way of saying, well, these things we completely take for granted and just expect to be there are just suddenly gone. What do you do? And part of that was, well, you know, what do you do to survive or to maintain or to continue living and do all the things you have to do if these things went away, but also to remind you of what life may have been like a little bit before these conveniences were there. I think the same can be said for this. The part of this that really jumps out at me as important is that the way that we are now consuming this information and that we're sort of always on, there's a notification just a thumbprint away, or I'm checking it on my watch or wherever I'm getting it, is, I think, mentally, possibly, not all the studies are done, but possibly it's not great for us. It's not healthy for us from a sort of a mental health perspective to be always on all the time. And I think it's not, I'm not necessarily saying everybody subscribe to this and just get your newspapers and let's call it a day on technology. And it's been fun, but forget about it from now on. I guess all I'm saying is maybe we can mimic some of the practices of the older way. And those practices being check Twitter twice a day.
Sure.
Only check your news feeds once a day. Do it in the morning. Do your email in the afternoon once. Don't always be checking it. Like, I feel like a lot of that stuff could happen and it would help us. The problem is it's all self-imposed and it all takes, you know, whatever collective willpower or individual willpower we have. And that's a lot harder than it was for those who only could get newspapers. And that was just their only way to do it. So they didn't have stuff they had to have willpower over. They just had to wait for the paper. So if the war ended, they wouldn't know for a couple of days in some cases. You know?
Right.
Well,
That's the thing. I'm sorry, Roger, go ahead.
I just, you know, personally, and I've had long discussions with Tom about this, is like, I notice my anxiety level drops considerably when I'm not always checking the news, and which is why I like what Scott, you were just saying, actually check it like in the morning when I do the show, and then I'll maybe do it in the evening. But between then, I don't look at anything, because the half-baked bulletins point that he makes, the point is that people will suddenly react to just a partial bit of news without having the entire story, revealed. And so they go off in a way that's half-cocked about something that may not have happened the way they thought it happened. And unfortunately, it propagates itself, because then you start alerting people, and they alert other people, and it just turns into this giant tempest that might not necessarily have a basis.
I like the fact that this was centered around news as well. I mean, there've been a lot of discussions about, does social media, hurt people's, actual social lives? Does it, make people feel worse about themselves because there's so much posturing and kind of, smoke and mirrors of what folks are sharing, depression and bullying. And so there's all this sort of like, is this socially bad for us? And then, focusing on news specifically is sort of like, okay, well, sure. Once upon a time, if I had to read the newspaper, I mean, I was younger too, but it's like, you have to like try to do that. And it's really easy not to read the newspaper, and you're just not going to see stuff in the air about what, all the stuff that you could have been reading. When it's, the internet, it's like, we're all not a bunch of news gatherers. It's just in our face all the time. If I'm searching through Twitter, and I'm like you guys, I try to avoid everything but kind of the tech stuff until about midday when we're done with the show, and then I have the capacity to absorb, some of the other things that I've been sort of actively avoiding. But I'm seeing snippets of it all day, so it's kind of all jumbled up in there anyway. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to get that, but that's just the way that I have my communication set up. So to take all of that away, and Farhad Manjoo had said, the three sort of big lessons that he had learned. And again, it sounds obvious, but who's tried this recently, is get your news, don't get it too quickly, because again, it'll be half-baked, it'll be wrong. There'll be a spin on it that, will affect your idea of it in a way that you wouldn't necessarily have happened otherwise. And avoid social. So I don't know if he's going to be back on Twitter. I'll miss him if he isn't. But I think, more and more the social kind of big internet pipe, that we've all gotten so used to, which is super convenient, is, messing people up. And it's interesting to hear that from somebody who's, he's absorbing news like we are for a living. So
sure. I mean, I look at it, just to sort of finish up this thought, as maybe a way to experiment. And I'm speaking mainly for me. I'm not really, prescribing this for anybody else listening, but I found that when I kind of fiddle around with the way I schedule this stuff, sometimes it makes a difference. To me, it's like taking a shower every day. You just feel better. If you just shower every day, you feel better. Maybe do other things with your social intake, your news intake, that you find makes you feel better. If not reading Twitter until at night, or not reading it at all and only using it to broadcast things you want to say, or whatever you want to do to shake it up. If you do that and you feel better, all right, maybe continue to do stuff like that. So I just think there's stuff to learn here, and I'd recommend people go read this article. I found it fascinating.
Me too. It's something that I would love to do. I feel as though, because of my work, I'm not in a position to try this. But you never know. Yep. I'll do the show reading the newspaper. We'll figure that out. But yeah, no, fascinating stuff. Definitely check out that New York Times article from Farhad Manjoo. And thanks to all of those who participate in our subreddits. We love to know what stories resonate with you, and we try to include them in every show here and headlines. You can vote on them, even if you don't submit a story. Just get to get people talking about what you like and don't like at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. And we're also on Facebook. If you hang out on Facebook a lot, facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow is where to find us there. So Scott, yesterday we were talking about the Google's new quantum 72 qubit quantum chip that was called the Bristlecone. And I said to Tom, "What's a Bristlecone? Have you ever heard of that?" And he was sort of like, "Don't put me on the spot, Sarah. I don't know." And so Charles wrote it and said, "You guys need a staff forester," and then linked us to where to learn more about the Bristlecone. And it's a really cool cone, which is why I love the fact that Google called it the Bristlecone for this, extremely powerful chip, because all three species of bristlecones are long-lived and highly resilient to harsh weather and bad soils. One of the three species Pinus longeva is among the longest lived life forms on Earth. The oldest Pinus, I'm not really good with biology. Longeva is more than 5,000 years old, making it the oldest known individual of any species.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I just love it when, thought goes into naming a quantum chip.
I agree. It's pretty cool. Congratulations. Looks like Colorado, Arizona, you both have these trees natively.
Dang it.
I don't have any here, and they're not in California either.
No,
so
too bad.
I don't know where Google's idea came from, but it's pretty neat. And the idea of resiliency.
Yeah.
That's what you're describing your chip, then probably I'll have your chip in a device one day.
Sure, exactly. Hey, if you can live 5,000 years in the soil, seems like a pretty good 72 qubit quantum chip as well. And thanks, Charles. It's always good to be reminded that that we have you to help fill in the things that we don't know. And also, thanks to Scott Johnson, who I believe held down the fort with me the last time that Tom Merritt was off the show.
I was, and enjoyed the heck out of it. And I always enjoy hanging out with you, Sarah. Thank you so much for being here with me and having me on. If you are interested in any other stuff, dear listeners, that I have to say or think or show or draw or talk about or film, you can find all of that over at frogpants.com. And if that's not enough for you and you're still consuming Twitter constantly, unlike our friend at the New York Times, you can check me out at Scott Johnson on said service.
Oh, thank you so much to Scott Johnson, as always. And also thank you, special thank you to all of our patrons. Patreon.com/DTNS is where you can find out more about all the cool stuff you can get as a patron. And there are lots of different levels. If you can give $1 a month, we'd love that. That's absolutely fantastic. If you're already giving $1 a month, love ya. Maybe you can give a little bit more, even better. Or tell a friend, tell an enemy, If you think that they'll listen to the show, that's cool too. They could be a patron. We'll turn them around, right? Everybody likes technology. Also, check out the DTNS store because we've got stuff in there that is new that you might want for yourself or a friend or an enemy. Whatever. DTNS.bigcartel.com is where you can see all the stuff we have on offer. New sweatshirts, hats coming soon, onesies. It's a party in there. So thanks to everybody who's already bought stuff from the DTNS store, and thanks in advance to anybody who will do so in the future. If you would like to get a hold of us, let us know what you like, what you don't like, questions, comments, feedback on anything we talk about. feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com is our email address. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC. You can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. Tom Merritt will be back tomorrow along with our guest, Justin Robert Young. See you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more shows like this at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Complete.
That's a new Frog Pants.
Yeah, Tom, I keep forgetting to give it to Tom. I did it a while ago, and I keep forgetting to send it to him. So
that's great. That's great.
If you send it to me, I can.
Yeah, if I give it to you, then it'll make it where it needs to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right now.
I'll put it in the rotation.
Show is part of the. Sorry, I didn't mean to play it again. Yeah, I'll send that to you here in a sec, so I don't forget.
Cool, awesome show.
Cool jazz.
I will never read news again. That's what I learned today. I'm gonna be so ill-informed. I think what's I mean, it's weird. There's like a push and pull effect. Like as more people moved to getting their news in such a quick and just spur of the moment manner, I think people who generate news or who work in PR kind of understand that, and so they do things that we would call clickbaity, right? Whether it's an outlandish comment or something they did at a bar, one night, like, tipping a waitress like $1,000, huge news, right? Even though in the bigger scope, in the larger scheme of things, wouldn't really be all that newsworthy. Mm-hmm. And it's weird. And I think it's just like, you clutter something, other people come over and clutter that as well. And then you just end up with a big mess.
Yeah.
Fair point.
All right.
Yeah. What do we want to call this show? I enjoy Amazon's Assistant getting the last laugh.
Yes.
That's a good one. It might not be the last one.
Maybe she gets the.
It's also not necessarily sort of like the blackmail that the title sort of hints at. I don't think there's any last laugh really being gotten. It's funny though.
Random laughing isn't funny.
Isn't it though?
Not bad.
There's dig once, cord cut twice.
Dig once, cord cut twice.
There's also, oh snap, you're fired.
Mm.
Oh,
A little cold. A little cold.
yeah.
A little cold.
What do you got? Nothing with the topic. Wait, there was one. I just unplugged experiments.
I still like the random laughs. No,
Random laughing isn't funny.
It isn't.
Okay, I'll vote for that one. Zoe brings bacon. You are nothing if not consistent with the show bot title ideas.
All right.
A lot of the others too. I for some reason I gravitate towards all of Zoe's. We're like-minded, folks. All right, good stuff. Random laughing isn't funny because it isn't.
No.
You know.
No, it can be quite frightening.
It turns out it's like being, in a sort of a
haunted mansion.
There's a reason people don't like laugh tracks in their TV shows anymore, because turns out random laughing or fake laughing, canned laughing isn't as funny
as if they're not laughing at all.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how bad would Arrested Development be if it had a laugh track? It wouldn't be good.
Well, but like Seinfeld had a laugh track.
It did, and I feel like it's the last great comedy that had one and got away with it. And they also
yeah, that's not exactly a new.
Didn't I? How I Met Your Mother use a laugh track?
Hated that show.
I love that show.
Couldn't stand it.
How did they meet? Nah, I'm just kidding.
You can always tell though when it's 3-camera audience laughter, and when they're out on the camera faking it.
And
the Seinfeld on the set stuff was always pretty genuine. That always sounded
right. And remember how, like, back in the day, I'm really going way back now, like the days of the Cosby Show and stuff, and they'd say Cosby Show is filmed in front of a live studio on this. Like, just so you know, like there were really people laughing.
Yeah, they still had giant signs that said applause.
Right. Yeah, right. No, Roger. The Tonight Show just gets all that applause at exactly the right time.
I know.
Organically.
And those guys off to the side just gesticulating to the audience. That's nothing.
And that sort of familiar face where you're like, I feel like that person's in the audience a lot. Doesn't work on the show.
Right.
Not an intern. We're a friend of an intern.
Just, staff members with nothing better to do.
Reality shows are real.
Yes.
I actually, speaking of reality shows, and this is really embarrassing, but I watched an episode of The Kardashians the other night because like everybody's having a baby, and I'm just like, what's going on with the show? And it was like the weirdest package where it was almost like the city of San Francisco wanted them to like come to the city, stay at this certain hotel, go to Alcatraz, and like get like a very thorough like tour, with like a lot of information, almost like, it took up a lot of the episode. And I was like, this is the weirdest reality show. Because it's like, obviously the Fairmont Hotel paid for something, but it was like some sort of like Chamber of Commerce. I don't know. But more and more you get these, all the reality shows now, or at least, the stupid ones where people yell at each other that I watch. It's like, they're always like, okay, we're going to the Bahamas. And then it's like this weird touristy thing, that's been paid for. And then they just sort of pretend that they all wanted to go there for some other reason.
I have never seen a single Kardashians episode.
It's Scott. It's barely watchable, and I'll watch anything.
Oh, Scott,
It's so strange.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
Are you levelating the MP3? Or
I am right now, in fact.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that. And that was a lovely show. And Raj, thanks for being so Android. So such a
Using
user
Android?
of Android. Yeah.
Yeah, we needed a voice on here that could speak to your weird tribe.
I love Android.
Well, the thing is that it's like I've just never been an Android user, but I also, there's lots of cool things about it. I just feel like, I can really kind of only talk about features like that in comparison to like, oh yeah, with the, on iOS, and people hate that.
Yeah, they don't love it.
Unless it's like a comparison story. It's like, hey, iPhone lady, hush it up.
Yeah. I think it was just because there's so many people who've had so much more experience, like jailbreaking or circumventing Android for the longest time to do weird stuff to it.
Right.
But what really attracted me was the kind of model range and the price range for phones. Like you could get like a 1 year brand new like Galaxy S7 and it would be like $400. You know, like you weren't locked into.
The downside of that, I agree with you, but the downside of that is, for me, always was, well, this version won't get, like, if there's a brand new version of the operating system, I can't run it. Like, actually, this thing today, only Pixels can run the freaking thing, and I know it's
right now, this is it will broaden out to a larger audience, but for people who want the preview, you need to be on those phones. But I mean, yeah, there's a cutoff point. And you have that with any technology. There's at some point where the hardware just won't support any of the new features. Sure. But like, that's especially with
the Apple side as well. So,
but like with phones, especially like I live with a phone for at least 4 years before I dump it and get a new one. Right? Like I don't need to have all these features as long as I get email and I can send it and my navigation works. Usually, I'm pretty set. Like I'm not too worried about not having like a stereoscopic camera vision that takes the best photos at night. I would love to have that, and I will consider it when I get a new phone in 4 years. But as it works well enough. Like I'm the kind of person that keeps a car for at least 10 years. Like I don't see
same with cars. Yeah, I hang on to my cars forever. I can't stand buying a new car.
I can't stand the experience. It costs too much, and oftentimes, the operating cost for my older car is actually cheaper because insurance is cheaper. Most of the parts I know where to get for it, and it's generic enough that you just go to any pick and pull and you can find what you need.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, the way it is with phones for me is I don't know. I just like the consistency. I also like the ecosystem. I don't hate it. Why that? I don't hate Android.
Oh, it's someone calling into.
Is that you or me?
No, that was me. Someone was trying to call into our email into the Daily Tech News Show email.
Oh, no worries. That happened to me.
That's a new one.
Right in the middle of the show. I can't I use Google's inbox. Well, that's the other funny thing is I'm all about the Apple hardware and OS, but I love Google apps in iOS. They're great.
Me too.
Like they're in some cases I have an Android tablet. In some cases, they're better than the Android counterpart of the same app. They make great iOS apps. So I do like that about Google a lot. They as much as they're interested in success of Android generally, I love that I can, have that stuff. I can still have those services and still enjoy them across platform. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, between Gmail, putting this show together every day, Maps, it's like, I mean, Google's a big part of my iPhone experience.
Right.
All day, every day.
Google services. I mean, I use them all. My favorite iOS mail app is by far Google's Inbox app. I love it. Like it's a weird relationship,
You mentioned older cars a few minutes ago, and my car is not older, but I also don't drive very much because I do a lot of working from home these days. And, there's insurance and, just the whole thing. It's costly to have a car you don't really use that much. And so I thought, what I'll do is I'll, check out some of those services where people can like rent your car. Because days go by sometimes and I don't need it. Or even if, if you want it for a few hours on Saturday, it's like, I'm just walking around anyway. And so Get Around is this company that I had profiled with, I guess, TechCrunch or something a really long time ago. And, I looked at their site and I filled everything out, and, it's not like a huge hassle, but you have to have your VIN number and like all this information about your car. And then you have to like arrange for somebody to come and just inspect the car, almost like an insurance agent, you know, so like you can't claim that like somebody like hit your bumper later on when it was already. Anyway, went through the whole thing, talked to them, and they're like, yeah, cool. And so, and your zip code is 94103, right? Which is an old zip code from San Francisco. And I was like, nah, I live in LA. And they were like, oh yeah, we don't service your area. Bye. That was it.
Oh no.
I was like, but like had my zip code from when I filled out the form before I had to call you. I know it was a bummer, but I have heard since then that there are a couple of really similar services that operate in the Los Angeles area. So
yeah,
I don't know. I just feel like I hate to have something that sits idly when, you know,
it could make you money.
Yeah.
Just like it make your money work for you and invest in this pyramid.
Right. Scheme. Make your money work for it. Yeah. Invest wisely. All that good stuff. Hold on a second, guys. I got to plug in my computer and my chargers.
Yeah. No worries.
It's I don't know if I would ever want someone. I hate valets. Like I wouldn't want someone else driving my car.
No. Same.
It's like, why are you in my car? This is the one thing that really bugs me about LA. Every place is almost completely like a lot of restaurants and stuff are valet only. And I don't why do I need to pay someone to park my car? I'll just park it on the street and walk 2 blocks. And I just don't touch my car. It's like, you know, you don't use the handbrake, you shove it in park, like you grind my gears. It's like, no, you don't need to.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I hate that. I hate valets. Oh my gosh, I'm enjoying the fact that I'm now talking to somebody who knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, the valet life.
Yeah.
Scott, you seem like such a valet guy.
Oh, my wife loves valets. Like she'll always choose to do it, but something in me kicks in and it just makes me, I get cheap because I know I'm going to have to tip a bunch of other people anyway.
You know, that living in LA, and just, you know, half the time I'm just running late because there's traffic and I'm like, valet, great. Now I don't have to, you know, look for parking for the next hour. But yeah, you end up sort of getting forced into it at times. The ones that I hate, it's like when someone lives in like a cool building where it's like, you know, they'll park your car for you because there's like nowhere for you to park. A lot of downtown, some of the new high rises are like this, you know, and it's like nice and everything. But then it's like, I was just going to visit my friend and now I got to tip the, okay.
Pretty soon it's just like, you know, you need a second job to cover it all.
Sure. Yeah.
But
this is why I just like walking around my neighborhood. I really just dense city person at heart, you know. What are cars anyway?
I love, if I could, I mean, it's my daughter's whole life plan, but just living down in the city and walk or public transport your way anywhere you need to go, and everything's within walking distance, and walk over to the university, walk to the, I mean, there is something about that, you know, I kind of wish I could do too, but well, I guess I kind of do. I just walk upstairs.
I would totally be into just like subscribing to a car service where you pay like, say like $300 a month or whatever. And you get like, it would be like city share or car share, but with self-driving cars, they just come to your door and pick you up instead of having to go to that one special parking lot in your neighborhood that has it.
Yeah, that was there was it wasn't city car. What was it? I guess it was Zipcar. That was like, there was a lot that was really close to the last place I lived in San Francisco. And you know, it was hopping, you know, people were in and out of there all the time. But I was like, this is like, you know, sort of an alley, and like I happened to live right next door to it. I had my own car, so I didn't take advantage, but you still have to go there. Like, you know, figure out sort of like open a gate and the whole thing. I honestly, I would get rid of my car. I would just use Uber or Lyft or something along those lines when I needed to, which is not every day, except that there are those, and I did this back in San Francisco for a while where I was like, who even needs it? But there's certain, you know, when I went to get cat litter and it's really heavy, and then you're kind of like waiting outside, and, you know, you got to call people and they don't want to wait for you while you're in the store. It's like, there are those situations where you're like, yes, a car is a wonderful luxury to have, you know, big grocery runs, or, you know.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Especially if you do like, oh, I need a simple table or a chair from IKEA because I don't want to spend too much.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
flat pack that thing into the trunk.
Yeah. Right. And just that whole kind of like, it certainly has made the idea of carpooling, like so much more. If you sit in the back of an Uber, it's like, well, you're carpooling, but you didn't have to like be like, hey, okay, are we going to the same, place of work? And are we going to leave at the same time? And do you live near me? And just all of that hassle that makes people not want to carpool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's carpooling. I mean, like in San Francisco and the Bay Area, they do though. Like if you want to get through the bridge, you can carpool. But I don't know if that would be something I'd be into. I don't know.
Does LA even have carpool lanes? I feel like there's so much traffic that it's just like, screw it, just open them all and hope for the best. I can't think of any highway, not the 10, not the 405 that I use regularly where I have to stay out of the left lane because it's just me. Maybe I'm just not thinking about that. I don't think so. I don't know. I'll have to pay attention next time I'm driving.
Definitely the younger generation, though. None of my kids, well, I shouldn't say none of my kids. My oldest loves to drive, but my two youngest don't really care. The pressure's not there. The social pressure's not there. They just don't care that much about it. So
yeah.
But then they're just like, meh, I'll take the train. I'll take the bus. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. Do you have light rail? Is there a light rail?
We have a light rail system called Trax that goes all the way from downtown and north all the way south to pretty much the whole valley. So you can get anywhere you need to, really.
That's cool.
It's clean too. It's nice and quick and clean and cheap and all that. And someone only gets hit every once in a while. But there's always some idiot who wanders out in front of it and gets sliced in half and then
yeah.
And then on that upbeat note, any final words for our audience before I stop the broadcast?
If anyone from the IRS calls you and tells you that the sheriff's department is going to arrest you within 45 minutes if you don't pay $3,500, don't do it.
Don't do it. That's great.
Don't do it. All right.
I got one. Watch out where the Huskies go and don't eat the yellow snow there.
Aha.
But do watch DTNS tomorrow.
Yes. And if you can't watch, listen.